if there's a fucking Lara Bingle, it all turns to shit pretty quick.
That's wild. All right, let's jump in then just in case.
Cool.
Uh, yeah, Mick from Shred. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dad. It's good to be here. I mean, we've been trying to do this for a while. I know I connected with you a little while ago, and yeah, it hasn't quite aligned, but here we are. I'm a huge fan of what you do and your passion for the mountain bike industry, and yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
Thanks, man. As I say to some people, getting guests on is like herding cats with bubbles. Like it's sometimes just so hard, but
Sounds
everyone's
like,
busy.
sounds like my two kids.
um, what do you do for those guys at home that might not know who you are and what you
Yeah,
kind of do?
obviously, you introduced me as Mick from Shred, and that's definitely one part of it. I own Shred Bike Care. It's a Australian-owned and made bike care brand, and I guess that's what we're here to talk about for the most part today. But it is still a side gig for me, and it's kind of like my little baby. Day to day, I am the general manager of marketing at a company called AME Group, and we are the commercial rights holder to the Australian Supercross Championship. We also have a little bit to do, or quite a bit to do, with the World Supercross Championship. And we do a lot of other things. Other clients of ours are Jet and Hunter Lawrence. They're, Australian Supercross riders who live in the US now, who are kind of dominating over there, especially Jet. We have a bit to do with those guys. We have other clients too within the supercars world, and fast moving consumer goods. Like, we've just got clients all over the place in terms of marketing and social and content. But as it stands right now, as day to day, I'd say 95% of my time is on Australian Supercross and World Supercross.
Yeah, I saw you took Jet for a drive in your Porsche while you're over in the US.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the other way around. It was we did a photo shoot with Jet and Hunter in Huntington Beach a few weeks ago, and it's a funny story. Just by chance, like, Adam Bailey and I, Adam Bailey runs the World Supercross Championship. Bailey's been one of my best mates since we were, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And just by chance now that we're working together across World Supercross, and his wife is the managing director of AME. So we're all really connected. But yeah, we were over there. We did a photo shoot for their new merch brands, and Bailey and I actually wanted to go and watch the press conference at Anaheim too, but we didn't have passes to get in, so we were just gonna figure it out. And as we were wrapping up the photo shoot, Jet and Hunter's dad, Dazzy, who I'm really good mates with, and I've been friends with that family for a long time, like since those kids were 10 and 12, from my time when I was at Fox, which I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit later, but. Long story short, we didn't have passes to get in, so Dazzy suggested one of us jump in the Ferrari with Jet and one of us jump in the Porsche with Hunter, and they don't get stopped at the gate. So Bailey and I looked at each other and just went, "Fuck, righto, let's go."
If someone's got to
Um,
do it, we'll do it, like.
that's right. So you jump in with Jet in the Ferrari, I'll jump in the Porsche with Hunter, and just like, it was one of those moments where I just kind of sat back and said, "What the fuck? Like, how are we doing this shit?" Like, it's just everything we did on that trip, we just landed on our feet. I mean, but that's kind of like, we're also good at what we do, and you create those opportunities. But that was definitely one of those moments. And I've been working in the action sports space now. What am I, 42? So since I was 22, so 20 years. It's just one of those moments where I'm like, holy fuck, this is why we do it. It was a really cool moment.
How are you managing to do all of that and then still have a side hustle and kids?
um, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, right? Because, like, my work-life balance right now is the best it's ever been. I'm really fortunate that with my day job at AME, we've got a really good team. We're only small, like there's four of us in the office now, or five of us. And you've seen the way we operate when we had you involved in Adelaide Supercross
Mm.
last year, shooting for us. We just hustle, and I think we're really, really good at what we do. By no means am I the smartest person in that room. The girls are way smarter than me, but I come with that industry knowledge and passion, and we're a really good team. It's really dynamic, and we just get shit done. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm in the office today, but I work from home most days, and my work-life balance has never been better. I've got 2 young kids. Hudson's 13 and Harley's 9. Hudson lives and breathes downhill. Throffs it. He 2 weeks ago we're at Threadbow. Last week we're at the Ball for the Vic Downhill Series. So we're always somewhere with that. My 9-year-old girl, she wants to be the next Caroline Buchanan, and she races BMX, and she's decent at it too. We went to Scotland together last year for World Champs, and we're trying to line up, getting to Rock Hill for World Champs this year, and I've promised her we'll go to Denmark next year for World Champs. So, as a 9-year-old, and she's telling me she wants to go to the Olympics, fuck, most 9-year-olds are worrying about if their Pokemon thing's staying alive. Like, she's telling me that, and whether it happens or not, it's probably more of a chance it won't. But while she's saying that at 9, I'm like, fuck, honey, let's go. I'll give her every opportunity I can. So, I'm just real fortunate that, work is good. We are super busy. We, start early, finish late, but we can take time off when we need. I don't know, the company, Callie and Bailey, they're just great people to work for, and we're very fortunate we can do what we can do. And then Shred, we're kind of, it's kind of trickling along at the moment. When we created that or started that business 3 years ago, I had 2 partners, and we just come in with a bang. And I guess we really rode that COVID wave when the industry was going berserk. And we kind of got like a false sense of confidence from that, because it was, year 1 for us was massive. And I'm like, holy shit, this is it. Obviously, there's been a bit of the downturn. And I actually want to listen to that podcast you put up yesterday. I meant to do that on the way in today, but I haven't yet, because I think I saw on LinkedIn, or was it LinkedIn, you put up a post about a podcast about the downturn of the industry.
Yeah, the Escape Collective crew, Wade Wallace, who's a lord. He's
really okay. Yeah. So I'd never heard of him before, and you put that post up, so I'm going to listen to that on the way home. But yeah, look, Shred's fine. It's going along quite well. How we do it, I'm lucky I've got a good distributor. GPI Polo, they do Apollo bikes, they do DT Swiss, G-Form. We work super closely with those guys, and they do most of the work now. We look after the marketing side of things. I would like to have more time to go and activate with Shred at bigger events and bits and pieces. Like I think what Matt from Crush does, he does an amazing job. What the guys at Markov do, they're everywhere, and I'm a little bit envious of that. But I also know that's what they do for a living, so they can do that. When I go to these races, I want to go as a dad first, and not necessarily stand in a tent promoting bike care products, because at the end of the day too, no matter how many times you activate, you're not selling. People don't go to events to buy stock. Bike wash. In my opinion, the most important thing from a bike care brand is relationships with the retailer, because not too many people are going into bike stores to buy bike wash. They're going in to get a service or buy a helmet or new gear or a new tire, and it'll be an impulse buy when they see something shiny on the counter. So it's probably, from my side, and that's just the way I think in terms of strategy, is that we can go to all events and bust our ass and do that, and that's great, but it's really up to the retailer to try and push it for you, and those retailer relationships are what's really important, which I was really lucky that when I started Shred, I had a lot of contacts through my time when I worked at Monza Imports and Fox, and that was a really good way and kind of an easy way for us to get Shred through, into these accounts. Now having GPI on board, we've kind of stepped back from that a little bit, and we're relying on their relationships with dealers, and obviously, having DT Swiss, every bike store has DT Swiss, or they need it at some point. So that was a huge hook for us as a brand to partner with those guys. But yeah, that's how we do it all, I guess. So many people ask, how do you do what you do? You're like the busiest guy. And I don't feel like I am. Maybe I am. But also, when I'm not doing something, if we have, like this weekend, we've got a weekend off. I'm like, fuck, what are we going to do? We're racing, we're racing tonight. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow and Sunday, and I don't know if I like that. I'm not sure if it's an ADHD thing where I need to know what I'm doing next. But I don't know. Like, it's just weird. I'd love to know what I'm doing and love to be going riding with the kids somewhere, because that's my favorite thing in the world to do, is to watch them ride and ride with them and see them happy. And what makes my kids happy is riding, whether it's BMX or downhill. So
100%. That's sick. Let's wind it back a little bit. You mentioned that the shred was a COVID kind of project.
Yeah.
Why'd you get into the bike cleaning and bike care products? Because as you said, like Muck Off is a huge company.
Yeah. Yep.
And like,
it's a cool story. I mean, at the time during COVID, my son was riding on a GT BMX team, and his teammate at the time, Fergus, his dad and I, I wouldn't say we were friends or anything, but we definitely knew each other. And it was Hudson's teammate at the time, and I was helping him out with some gear and stuff. But his dad, Victor, was working in the hospitality. No, was working in a chemical. He was a chemical salesman, and he was in the hospitality area. They supplied cleaning products to the hospitality area, restaurants, bars, kitchens, whatever. And then when COVID kicked in, obviously restaurants and everything closed. So he had a lot of time on his hands, and so did their chemists in their labs. He started playing around with some. He come to my house one day to pick up some gear that I got for Fergus, and he said, "Hey, try this." And he had a little bottle degreaser and a little bottle of bike wash concentrate. And he goes, "I think there's something in this. It's really good." And I mean, I was like, "Yeah, cool, whatever." Maybe he's like, "Maybe we could do something." I'm like, "Man, fuck, like." It's bike wash, it's degreaser, whatever. I didn't have a passion for it. I actually didn't really care. But obviously I like looking after our shit. We've got fucking 10 bikes in the garage across enduros, downhill bikes, motorbikes, BMX race bikes. So I like to look after our stuff. And I used it because I just needed to wash one of the bikes. And I was like, holy shit, this actually works really good. It was the degreaser and also the wash. So from there, I was like, okay, this kind of has legs. I was working from home as well during COVID, and I was working for Harley at that time. And during COVID, things went quiet there too. So I had a bit of time up my sleeve. I'm like, oh, let's have a crack. So that's how Shred started. And I guess Victor was the guy behind the liquid, and I was behind the branding. We also brought another guy on, Tim Curtis, who's our graphic designer at the time, and he, we didn't know where it was going to go, so I didn't want to invest too much cash at the time. At that time, I thought this could be a thing where we'll just make a couple of products, 2 or 3, and we'll sell it out the back of our cars at BMX events to help buy some chains and sprockets here and there. And I didn't want to pay 10 grand to build a brand deck and logos and bits and pieces like that. So we brought Tim on, and I said, hey Tim, we'll bring you in as an equal partner if you just design everything for us.
Sick. Yeah.
And he did, and he made it look fucking epic. And then we started doing that. I started having conversations with retailers and distributors, just through my network, and people started taking it. We started with 3 products: a ready-to-use wash, a concentrate wash, and a degreaser. And then from there, each month, we just started dropping a new product. Victor would work on that. We had, Eco Clean, and then a tubeless sealant, and then we started working on chain lubes, and then, silicone polishes. Like, all this stuff's quite easy to make. It's not difficult. And then you just tweak it to how you want it to work.
Yeah.
We got a silicone spray, and we're like, yeah, it's good, but I think we could add more silicone to it. So we changed it from 10% to 12%, and then went to 14% because that's just what we wanted to do. So there's little things like that. And then you change, you can come up with your color, and then you get big enough where you got to buy this stuff in 1,000 liters, and that's when you can start producing your own and working with chemists on formulas and bits and pieces, then that's where we're at now. So, I mean, as it stands right now, I think we've got 11 products. All of our products are, we've got our own formulas now, except for one, which is an off-shelf product, and they're the same as, that product in particular. Every one of those products is exactly the same. And you could be paying $4 is super cheap for a product, or you could be paying $40 for that same can, and we're kind of somewhere in the middle. I'm not going to say which one it is because everyone will go out and get it from super cheap for $4. But it's essentially the same. So yeah, that's how it all kicked off, and it just grew from there. Again, our product range grew, our presence in the market grew. I went out and I spent 10 years again at Monza Imports and worked on the Fox brand in mainly moto and BMX and wake and a few other things. I wasn't really on the bike side of it though. But I reached out to the Fox distributor in Chile and we sent him a container of shred. I spoke to the Fox distributor in Japan. They took a bunch. New Zealand, they took a bunch. So I was really using my network from, busting my ass in a previous life and using those connections to really support us. And that's how we got ourselves into doors. Sam Moore introduced me to the guys at Pushies. They got us on Pushies. We worked our way with MTB Direct, and then, the guys at Yarra Valley Cycles, at first they didn't want to borrow us, but then, to get us in at Yarra Valley Cycles, we had to do custom labels for them. So every shred bottle had a Yarra Valley Cycles logo on it. They couldn't say no. Yeah. So we just got creative. We're small enough to be creative and dynamic and can do small print runs of labels. Yeah, it's not that cost effective, but it still got us involved in at one of the biggest bike shops in Australia. Drift Bikes. I knew Teddy, who was running that.
Sick, yeah.
When I was at Monza, we were doing Oakley as well, and I knew Teddy from his Oakley days, and that's how we got into drift. So it was just like using my connections from back in the day, to benefit something of my own was really nice.
Do you find like a lot of those, you might hit up those connections and you might be using that connection to do it, and then they actually try the product, and it's like they might be a bit dubious at some point, but then they try it and they're like, oh, this is actually sick.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of, what we did in getting it into stores were favors or repaying favors or just having those connections. I mean, good luck not having that kind of network and trying to get a bike care brand into some of those places. And then they use it and it's going, fuck, it's actually really good. And then the way we were marketing it towards the kids, and it started moving off the shelves. So yeah, I was lucky that we had those connections, or else I think it would have been a lot more challenging.
Whose idea was it to put the silicone spray in a pump bottle and not in an aerosol? Because that's one of the best things ever.
Yeah. Probably Victor's.
Yeah.
Victor's not, he's no longer a partner. Victor got out of it late last year, but he was a huge part of that brand, and it definitely wouldn't be what it was without him. But there was 3 of us in on it, and it was just too many people. Victor decided to jump off, but I'm pretty sure that was Victor's idea to put that in. But honestly, the Fast Shine is my favorite product.
Every day. Yeah.
I love that thing. I mean, our degreaser is also really good. I mean, all of our products are good, but that Fast Shine, I love it. And for some reason, I used to love Maxima SC1 and still do. And we took a lot of inspiration from that product, and we just wanted to, be as good, maybe better. I think it's as good or better than SC1, but that was the market leader for that category. And since I was a kid, I started racing motorbikes when I was 4. Fuck, my dad would spray silicone polish over everything. I'd jump on my bike and the seat would have it. And it's just, I grew up spraying that shit everywhere, and I still love it and like to keep all our things nice and shiny. So yeah, our Fast Shine is a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I used it in the car the other day and then got it on the steering wheel, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a wild ride. But it is just such a good product.
It is genuinely. I mean, you know, the bike care market is flooded, and a lot of people would say it's all the same thing, right? And we've been accused of that. Or we've been accused of copying brands, and you know what? I can genuinely say that we stayed in our lane and we didn't copy anyone of anything. You know, I didn't even, you know, and that's I would, you know, probably if the shoe was on the other foot, I'd probably say the same thing, whether it's just because I would have felt threatened or they genuinely thought that. But I can, you know, hand on my heart say that we didn't copy anyone with anything. We stayed in our lane the whole time, and you know, we just want what's best for our product and our brand, and that's what we've done.
It's worked, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely worked to start with. Right now, and everyone knows it's pretty tough out there. But that's okay. I'm fortunate that it's, you know, it's a side hustle for me, and it's not our sole source of income. We don't owe any money. We've got stock. Our distributor is going great. So, you know, we're in a pretty good spot. So it's, you know, there's no complaints, and the market's not going to be like this forever.
No.
You know, I've seen it come and go. Well, not so much in mountain biking because I've only been involved in, you know, mountain biking over the last, say, 5-6 years since my son was into it. I've always come from that moto background, but I've seen moto do it. So it'll be back, and when it's back, we'll be totally fine.
Has it been nerve-wracking at all? Like, what's it been like for seeing this downturn? And you're only like 3 years into it. Like,
yeah, again, I mean, lucky that it's a side hustle for me, and if it was, you know, if I was using shred to put food on my kids' table, yeah, I'd probably be worried. But I think, no, it hasn't been too stressful. I do worry about some of the other bike stores. It sucks to see. It really sucks to see a bunch of bike stores, you know, shut their doors recently and brands disappear, or, you know, big retailers cull staff and whatever. Like, it's a massive bummer to see the industry go through that, because we went through such a great time during that COVID period, and I kind of think everyone just got a bit of false sense of confidence from that. And yeah, I don't know. You tell me. You talk to a lot of people. You've worked at bike shops. You talk to most people in the industry. I'll spin it back on you. You know, why do you think it is, and how do you think people are feeling?
I think it's definitely it's weird because there was a false redefinition of what it was like before. So because the market held so crazy for 2 or 3 years, people forgot how quiet it was in 2019 or 2018.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you'd work in a store and you get your hours cut to 2-3 days a week, like in winter, like you feel lucky. But through COVID, it was like Christmas for 365 a year.
Yeah.
And
right.
I'm not sure whether there's enough, especially in local stores. I'm not sure if there's enough business or marketing education. So they kind of got a false sense of security for a lot of stores that I know, and they think, oh, it's just going to be like this forever. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
And kept ordering.
Not only bike stores with that, but also distributors. I mean, we know, you know, and won't go naming names, but there's some distributors out there with bikes who are sitting on fucking Bunnings-sized warehouses full of stock.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's a massive concern, because that kind of, you know, when they're gutting prices to, you know, and they have to because they've got the stock, but it's just that snowball effect.
Well, like you look at Kona in America, where they did a 2-for-1 deal. Like
really?
Yeah, you bought one bike and you got another one for free.
No way.
Any bike.
Should have loaded up. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do that, because I'm not going to sell them, because even the second-hand bike market's gone to shit.
But like that just shows how much money you're hemorrhaging in storage and warehousing if it's cheaper for you to get rid of a bike than it is for you to hold it.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think that's probably enough doom and gloom. We don't need to be too negative about the space, because we all love it, and you know, we're all here, and we're going to be here for a long time. And at the end of the day, I just hope it picks up. And you know, like I said, I'm sure it will. I've seen it in moto, maybe perhaps not this bad, but it's not going to be like this forever, and we'll be fine.
The positive side is I still think the market is bigger than what it was in 2019. There's less people spending money, but once everything settles down, the market will be bigger. So 2 or 3 years, it's going to be better than 2019, and it'll be Sweet.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
You kind of mentioned like you were in the moto market and this, like, what are some of the moto marketing and business things you've seen that have happened in moto that could be possibly used in mountain biking and vice versa, especially when it comes to the sport side of things as well?
That's a really good question, and I wish I'd have paid more attention to that when you said. From a marketing point of view, I think they're all very similar. Like the crossover and the audience is, very, very similar. If I go out for a trail ride on a motorbike, which I don't do often, but if I did, knowing that audience, and then went out for a mountain bike ride the next day, like a trail mountain bike ride, they're a very, very similar audience. So you'd market to that audience. The mountain bike trail rider versus the motorbike or the dirt bike trail rider, very similar. The motocross guy and the downhill guy are also very similar. So, I mean, I don't think that any brand in moto marketing should do or would be or are doing anything different to what some bike brands are. And you've got to think brands like Fox, they're across both anyway. And the marketing guy, for example, Austin Hoof, he's across both sides. So it's all very similar. I mean, if they were different, you wouldn't have the same person looking at the marketing or in charge of marketing on both sides. You'd have, different people with different skill sets targeting different audiences. But for that reason, you've got the same guy looking after the two different disciplines. I mean, Fox used to have a surf, massive push in surf.
That's right.
There's no way the moto/mountain bike guy's looking after surf because that's completely different. Yeah. So my point is that it's very similar because they do. Most brands will have the one guy looking after both categories because they're all very similar.
What about from like an events perspective as well? Like, obviously, the thing I noticed with the Supercross is I went to one as a kid, but this is the first one I've been to in ages. Was that one in where we went last year?
Yep.
Entertainment Centre, and I was just like, oh, how did I not realise that everyone can just sit around the racetrack and watch for hours and see everything?
Yep.
So
well, it's a show factor too. You're right. It's accessibility. I mean, we can run a Supercross race at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre with 7,500 people, and then we can run one here in Melbourne at Marvel Stadium with 35,000 people, right? And no matter how big the crowd side is, they're there. You're that close to the action. I love downhill for what it means to my son, and the weekends I have away with my mate and his boy, we have the best time. But I've got to walk up a fucking mountain, and I don't like walking that much, right?
Yeah.
To watch him come down for 2 seconds, and then I'm like, fuck. If I couldn't remember what race number he was, you know how many times I've walked up that mountain and actually missed him?
Oh,
and then he gets to the bottom. Yep, cool, Dad, I made it down. All right, let's just walk back down then. I mean, from a spectator point of view, from a live show, downhill is so hard to market because how are you paying spectators to come and watch a race when you're watching one part? Like you're going to go, Bawbor on the weekend, I walked down and watched the Jeep track section because that was the gnarly bit. And that's where everyone was, but no one else walked down any part of that track except for that bit. But you can't sell tickets for that.
No.
Because there's no opening ceremony. There's no, you might get a little bit of a podium where a couple of, the people are standing on a bit of timber, a log at the end of the day, and they get their goodie bag and that's it. There's no champagne moment. There's none of that. So it makes it really hard. And that's why I think what Red Bull did with the World Cups was amazing because their broadcast was good. They were out in the middle of nowhere with probably fuck all phone reception, which also makes it really difficult from a live broadcast, a live timing, communication with none of that, with no service. It makes it really difficult to run an event. So they did a really good job. They did the best job. Like they made that absolutely amazing. But and I've never been to a World Cup, so I don't even know if a spectator would pay tickets for it, but I don't know why you would, because what would you see other than where, I know on the broadcast, they're all down the bottom. They've got that huge crowd of where they ride through. So, and that huge crowd when they cross the finish line, but that crowd's just watching the rest of it on a big screen.
Yeah, exactly.
I know they've got the activations and they can meet the riders and stuff, which is a massive thrill for the kids. So, I mean, again, on the other hand, as a dad, I probably would pay to take my son there to give him that experience. But it's hard to be a spectator of those things, and that's why I would much prefer to watch a downhill race on TV the way Red Bull did it than actually go to the live show, because you're not getting that experience. Plus, I think the time you're there for, a Supercross race, you get there at 2:00, you go through the pit party, the race starts at 5:00, and then it's over within 2 hours. So you're there for like a 5-6 hour window. Downhill, you kind of got to get through qualifying, practice, quali, and now they've put those stupid fucking semi-finals on, and then you've got to watch, and they're not even pushing it. Like, fuck, I hate what they've done with the World Cups this year. I mean, tell me how that makes sense when Red Bull had a seeding run, which they would just get through, and that race run, they fucking send it. They can't. None of them are really going to send that semi-final because they don't want to bin it. But then they're not pushing themselves to the limit. So you're only seeing that top 10 or whatever get through to that final actually in full send mode, because they're not going 100% in the semis trying to get through, because they're also mindful that they don't want to bin it to get through. Exactly. I don't know. I don't agree with that new format, and I didn't pay to watch it last year because I watched highlights and bits and pieces, but I will say I'll watch it this year. Because we've got a bit of a connection with Jackson Goldstone now, and Laurie and those boys. I only met him a couple of weeks ago, but at Threadbow. But my son's a Fox kid, and we got to spend a bunch of time with him, which was really lovely. They're great kids, and just by chance, we were at dinner with the syndicate team, and Jackson's a huge Supercross fan, like massive.
Yeah.
And I think there's a possibility of running a World Supercross round in Vancouver this year, and he's half an hour away. So we got chatting, and all of a sudden, we'll use him, as an ambassador potentially of that event. And he's like, yeah, bring Hudson over. We can, do the Supercross stuff, and the week after I'll take him riding. And Hudson's looking at me going, Dad, like, what the fuck? And I'm like, let's try and make this happen, So, I'll watch it now for that reason. I've got a bit of an invested interest with those boys, just purely based on the experience that they gave me and my son a couple of weeks ago. And so I'll probably pay reluctantly to watch it. And
depends where it is, because no one knows yet. Like, I still don't know where it is going to be broadcast in Australia.
Is that the truth?
Yeah, I think it might be KO or something, but yeah.
KO would be all right, because I've already got. I just don't want to have to pay Discovery that $200 to watch it like it was last year. Yeah,
no, that's all being shut down. So,
thank God for that.
Yeah, because it's gone to Max. They're doing like a Eurosport cycling channel in Europe, and that's going to go to KO and whatever here, like whatever Eurosport.
Well, that makes it different then. I'll 100% watch it. I just don't know, but I'll say that. But again, I really struggle with the format.
Yeah, well, there's no semi-finals for race day this year. That's like after qualies. So I don't think that. I don't know, but I still don't.
Yeah, but you have to watch that if you want to see some of the guys. Like, what if you want to watch Amory or someone and he sends it, and if he bins it, you don't get to watch him on the Sunday. But I want to watch him because I know how fucking hard he sends it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of have to watch it all. It's just not right. It's a pain in the ass, in my opinion. But again, I'm not that close to it, and I'm sure there's way smarter people in rooms talking about this, making decisions for the right reason,
Exactly. Yeah, we'll go with smarter, that's for sure. It's such a weird year for downhill. I'm very interested to see what happens.
But it doesn't sound like any of the athletes like it. I mean, I listened to the Gypsy Tail podcast with Tani, and she was saying she didn't like it. I'm not in. I won't repeat what the other boys were talking about it, because I don't want to get anyone in trouble or whatever. But it just doesn't seem like anyone's stoked with that format.
I wouldn't be, not if I was a racer. Like, you're just risking your job twice for no extra benefit. And
yeah, I know you're not getting paid the twice amount to go and send it
because they released the format after contract season. So
yeah.
it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Sweet. What was your time? So how did you kind of get into working for Fox and getting into this position that you are now?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a long story. I left school. I mean, let's go back right from the start. I started racing motocross when I was 4 years old, and rode motocross right up until my mid-20s. My brother was the same, so Cam's only 16 months younger than me, and he still to this day does it for a living. He moved from racing to freestyle, so Cam's in Nitro Circus and does all that bit. He did X Games. He's 3-time X Games medalist. He's Red Bull X Fighters, now Nitro Circus. So we just we're bound to create our careers this way. I think all through the opportunities we got through Dad and Mum, and we grew up riding. Dad had a successful plumbing business. I left school pretty early, probably way too early to become a plumber, and just if I wasn't going to be a racer, that's what I was going to do. I finished my apprenticeship when I was 19 and going, fuck, I don't want to be a plumber. I ended up, you know what though? Now I'm kind of like, kind of wish I'd have stuck it out. But it's just through meeting people. When I finished plumbing, I went and worked for a company called Full Throttle Sports, and they were running grassroots events here in Melbourne, motorbike or dirt bike events. From that time, I met the guy called Trevor Brooks, and he was the course builder of X Games and Krusty Demons back then and all that. I got a job with him building, all the ramps and not building, bolting ramps together at venues for Krusty Tours. So, and I'd also do the stage management at Krusty Tours. From there, I met a guy called Scott Runciman, and till this day, he's still one of my really good friends, and he's been a huge mentor in my life. But he was the brand manager of Fox at Monza Imports. And I was 23 by then, and he brought me in as his assistant, I guess, at 23.
Yeah, wow.
Back then, when you were with brands like that, though, each of the product managers would do their own marketing. There were really no such thing as a marketing guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had a marketing head on me through school and whatever, and I'd always do my own sponsorship deals and my brother's sponsorship deals through high school, and we'd do all right. Like, we'd get heaps of free shit just by I don't know. I don't actually remember how I did it, but so long story short, after a couple of years working with Scotty and Fox, I created this marketing role there, and John, the owner of Monza, and Scotty were really supportive, and I kind of moved away from that product management side of it to a marketing side of it, and that's kind of when the social media really kicked off, and I had a huge interest in social and content, and to this day I still do, and kind of all just went from there, and I was really fortunate with that role at Fox. Like, I mean, some of the best times of my life working in motocross, supercross, wake, BMX, and being that guy that would go to, I was the athlete manager too, so being that guy, I'd go to every single event, and Fox was a brand that I grew up with, as a kid racing motocross since I was 4 years old. That was, my rip curl to a surfer. It was my favorite brand and still is. So I was living the dream. By the time I left there, I was 30, 35 or something, but I had 2 kids at that stage, and it was just like, having 2 kids under 4, going to events every weekend, it was just getting too much and putting too much pressure on my wife and family life and whatever. And it was just time. I'd been there for 10 years, and I got an opportunity from there to go to the Peter Stevens Retail Group on the Harley Heaven side of things. I wouldn't say I went reluctantly. I went there because it suited my family lifestyle at the time. No travel, although I did get to travel quite a bit internationally with that, but not every weekend I was away. But man, I didn't love Harleys, but I didn't actually know anything. I didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
But that was one brand that can suck you in. I grew so passionate about Harley Davidson so quickly just based off its heritage. And its passion for its own brand. It's like a whole different world inside that. It's like a bubble, and once you're in it, man, you live and breathe it. So I ended up being there for 8 years. I didn't think I would. From there, again, I started after about 6 years, I started getting a little bit bored. I mean, Harley just dominates that space, and you don't have to do anything extra from a marketing point of view to have wins. So we're kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. And COVID kicked in, and that's when Shred kicked off. COVID was a really tough time for Harley, and we just didn't do as much, and I lost a bit of passion for it. And I started looking around a little bit. I got introduced to the guys at PON, and was talking to them about getting a marketing director role with Santa Cruz. And we're going back and forth. They asked for a reference, and I spoke to Bailey because I've worked with Bailey, forever. And I said, hey, I'm talking to Santa Cruz. Do you give me a reference? They need one. He's like, yeah, sure. And then half an hour later, he called me back and said, nah. If you're jumping off there, come and work with us. So took a little while to get over the line, back and forth, and then back in February last year, I started with the AME group, and I really am stoked to be where I am now. I love what I do here. I feel like I'm back where I belong in this space, running this Australian Supercross Championship and working a lot, working with the World Supercross Championship and the Jet and Hunter stuff. Like, this is my area. This is what I grew up doing, and I'm one of those lucky guys that wakes up in the morning and love going to work. Like, I just don't have that feeling which I started to get in my last role, where you'd wake up and just go, fuck, I don't want to do this today. I haven't had one of those single moments yet, and it's really cool. So I'm very lucky. I mean, fuck, I'm not going to sit here and say it's all beer and Skittles. We all have our days at work, and I just struggle sometimes as much as the next bloke with, you have your days, but I'm very fortunate enough that, between what I do for my day job and Shred and my kids, it's life's pretty good.
I'm sure like world-class riders, moto or mountain bike, still wake up on days and they're just like, I don't want to do this. Like,
I'm sure they do. I'm not dropping in or doing some of the shit they're doing either, though.
That's fair. We might start wrapping things up so you can get home on time. I figured, since you're in kind of a unique position that's been like a part of marketing for brands, and you've talked to athletes, you work around a lot of athletes and stuff. For my first last question, what advice would you give to some up and coming riders or juniors that would like to get sponsored or put themselves out there to get some support?
Invest in content. Content is king. You don't have to be the fastest guy out there to get looked after. Not all these guys from the races are going to the Vic Downhill Series. I don't know anyone from brands who represent brands or working brands are going to grassroots mountain bike races. So, and the people who are going there, there's 300 people there you got the national round in Adelaide this weekend. You're going to be there this weekend. There might be fucking 300 people there over the weekend in terms of spectators.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. So that's my point. Race results are great. You want to be riding really good, but man, content is king. If you are going to those races, you don't have to invest in a shooter, but ask your dad to follow you around with a camera, and then you can go and edit a reel. Just be seen online, have an online presence, and that's most kids these days do, right? Every kid has an online presence with Instagram, but fucking use it properly. Don't use it to, a lot of these kids will go to a mountain bike race and their Instagram stories are full of what they're doing on the Saturday night, riding around town, jumping off ledges, being kids, and that's totally fine too. But there's no quality content coming out of that. There's no strategy. I even do with my son now, and we have a social strategy for him. He can have his Snapchat and do whatever else, but in terms of his his profile online through those major channels, have a strategy. Yeah, let people you're going to a race that week from a photo that you've got from a previous round. Can't wait for Ball this weekend. My favorite track. Fox have got me looking with fire emojis.
Yeah.
And then I get a bunch of clips, and other dads, we've got this thing, race dads. We all get clips of each other's kids around the end of the day. We all position ourselves on different parts of the track, so we're not just fucking watching them come down. We can actually see bits of it.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of dads. Pretty cool, actually. So, but then you use that content to build a reel after it and just be seen. But make sure that that's kind of, you don't need to have a professional shooter following you around. iPhones are amazing these days, and the way you can edit a reel on Instagram is unbelievable. You can look quite good quite easily with not a lot of effort, but you still need to put the effort in, and you need to put some thought behind it. So my number one bit of advice is invest into a social strategy and invest in decent content, and don't be a dickhead on social media.
Fair. Yeah. Man, like there's an app I downloaded the other day, CapCut. And it does it for you. Like you can literally just go use this template and it does everything for you.
I know. I mean, kids are all over that. They're using that. I'm surprised you've only just got it. I mean, I've got it. I really don't use it a lot. If I do a reel, I just do it in Instagram because I'm kind of not that creative. But kids are using CapCut flat out. And it's, but that's what I mean. But use CapCut for the right thing. Don't use CapCut. At a ball last weekend, I hardly saw any content come out of it. There's so many good races, like kids, they all ride, they're gnarly. I saw more content on their stories from fucking around, riding around the village of a night time and just being kids and having fun. They all do it. They're not doing anything bad, but it's more important for them to be seen doing that kind of thing. And that's fine if that's what they want to do. But if you want to be someone in this space, if you want to be seen, if you want to get looked after from a bike shop or a distributor for a set of gear or a set of tires, put some effort into a strategy, stick to it, and roll it out with, make sure it's quality.
What did, over this time doing all these roles and learning and stuff, is there anything you kind of regret or would have done differently up until now?
Yeah, of course. I mean, not really a regret. I mean, early days, when I was 24 and I was the guy going to the races, I wish I had not had such a ego and probably shut my mouth sometimes. But no, I mean, I have no regrets sometimes. No, I have no regrets, but you definitely, as you get older, you learn and look back and go, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that or done that, especially when forums were big. I used to love a forum. I used to fucking love ruffling some feathers on there, and then I'd be dragged into the office. Mick, you represent, but you can't say that shit. You're on there, Mick Sinclair from Monza, or you're there, Mick Sinclair from and you can't go saying that. I remember one time there was a motocross race at Horsham, and it wasn't great, but I got home and I fucking teed off. And then the poor guy, but this is the kind of thing, the regrets I have. They're all volunteers running that event, right? And I've gone back. I'm a fucking 25-year-old dickhead who's just had a weekend away working. I get paid, in, you're out. It's no dramas. Sick. These poor guys have busted their ass in 40-degree heat getting that ready. It was dusty, and I've gone home and teed off. And then the promoter of the Pro Motocross Championships called my boss because he's had the fucking poor president of that club see that, and then I'm getting dragged over the hot coals, and that was a massive learning curve for me. I tell you, one thing I do right now from that experience is I walk down, every time I'm walking down that hill at a downhill race and I see a guy there volunteering who I know has got a kid there or he just loves it, I go and say thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, thanks so much for your time volunteering, mate. Hey, you got any rubbish here you need me to take back? I am so thankful for the volunteers in this space, and I've probably learned from that experience where I teed off on this poor club from just being a dickhead because I thought I wasn't even riding. It was just because I was there hot and dusty and shit. Then I drive back in my air-conditioned car. Like, fuck, who was I to complain about it, And that was fucking 17 years ago now, and that's something I do regret. I wish I didn't do that, but from that experience I've learned, and I make sure I go out of my way, and even people who work with us, I make sure they feel appreciated, because they don't need to do what they're doing. They don't need to volunteer that time, and if they didn't, we'd all be fucked. There'd be no event. So I make sure from that experience I go out of my way and make sure, for whatever worse, it means nothing, because who the fuck am I at these races and these downhill events? I'm no one. It's just like, but I just want them to know that someone appreciates what they do.
100%. Last question is, we did chat about this a little bit, but if you have got up and you haven't got any motivation, or you're cooked and you really can't be bothered walking around a track, or, things are a bit hectic, what do you do to kind of get motivated? Like, do you listen to any music or have anything to kind of G up?
No, I chat. I talk to people. If I'm having a shit day or I'm feeling it flat, I am definitely not one person to hide it. I used to be shocking at it. If I've got a really good group of people, close network, I guess, and I know I could go up, and if I'm having a shit day, I won't be mentally. If I wake up and just not feeling it, or for whatever reason, there's no reason why you feel shit some days, and we all like that. Whether you're a tough guy and think that doesn't happen, I'm calling bullshit, because it fucking happens. I know that I've got a bunch of people, men and women. I can just go and say, I'm feeling like shit today. I don't know why. Fuck, I can't be bothered. And just by having that conversation and getting that off your chest, and maybe letting one person who you're close to know how you're feeling, you instantly feel better. And then if you're still not feeling better enough that you want to talk about it more, I can talk about it more. And then, within a couple of minutes, I'm feeling good again, and then we're ready to go.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, I really like that. That's pretty rad.
You have to. I mean, I would recommend that to anyone. If you're feeling shit, and we all feel shit, whether you're feeling shit for a reason, whether you're feeling shit because you've said something to someone and then, fuck, I wish I didn't say that, you're going to feel like shit. Just get it off your chest. Yeah. If you're feeling shit for no reason whatsoever, everyone's got someone they can talk to. And if they don't, then they really should. And if you don't, you know what? Find me on Instagram and tell me. I'll be that person for you if you don't have someone out there to talk to, even if I don't know you. But by getting that shit off your chest sometimes makes you feel instantly better. And if you keep talking, the more you talk about it, if it doesn't work, talk about it more. You're gonna start feeling better, and that's what I do. No podcasts, self-help podcasts are gonna help me. I see through a lot of that bullshit. I'm not writing, so I'm not there going to listen to fucking Pantera trying to pump me up for the day. It's really having those conversations. I don't feel shit often, but like I said, we all do. So that's what works for me.
What a great note to kind of end on, man. I appreciate that. That was sick.
No, cool, no problems.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. Hopefully we can catch up at an event soon. And
no doubt. We'll get you back on board for Adelaide. You were great for us over there. I've seen you turn into a bit of a moto guy, shooting shooting Elijah and that. I'm like, fuck yeah, look at you go. No, it's good to see you cross over into that space. You did a great job. And like I said, I appreciate everything you do for Shred. If you look at the Shred Instagram, a bunch of the recent content, especially around product, is your work. And it's great to work with you on that. I know you bust your ass for this industry. You're everywhere. Even before I met you, I saw you at Mansfield at Highline one year, and I knew who you were. And it's just, our industry is lucky to have people like you doing this, because not a lot of people do, and it definitely deserves it. So, I'm a guest, but thank you for everything you do for this industry. Thanks for the way you push Shred, and I'm stoked to be working with you on some moto stuff as well.
No worries, man. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cool.
Easy. Well, take it easy, and have a safe drive home, man.